Ryan, I've never told anyone this before, but I trust you enough to share it now. Ryan, there's something I need to tell you. I've never said this out loud before. I think I'm in love with you.
I know what happened. You do? I know about the accident.
How?
She hid her crutches for 30 days on purpose. The second he saw her walk in, his face said everything. But was it love, or was it regret? She hid her crutches for 30 days on purpose. The second he saw her walk in, his face said everything. But was it love, or was it regret? Sophia had one rule before she agreed to meet him. He would not know. Not yet. 30 days of phone calls. 30 days of video chats where she sat carefully angled, her injured leg always just out of frame. 30 days of laughing until midnight, of sharing secrets she hadn't told anyone in years, of building something that felt terrifyingly beautifully real. And he still didn't know about the crutches. Not because she was ashamed. She had made peace with the accident 18 months ago. Made peace with the surgery, the recovery, the long, ugly months of learning to trust her own body again. She was not hiding out of shame, she was hiding on purpose. Because she needed to know the truth. It had started, like most things that change your life, completely by accident. A mutual friend had suggested Ryan. He's a good one, Sophia, a genuinely good one. Just talk to him. So she had one phone call, just to be polite, with no expectations whatsoever. That call lasted 4 hours. By the end of the first week, they were talking every single day. Ryan was funny in the dry, quiet way she had always loved. Not performing humor, just seeing the world a little sideways and describing it honestly. He asked real questions and actually listened to the answers. He remembered things she mentioned in passing and brought them up days later. He laughed at her jokes even when they weren't that good, but she knew, she could hear it in his voice, that it was real laughter, not polite laughter. By the end of the second week, something had shifted between them. It was no longer just pleasant conversation. It was the kind of talking that fills you up, that makes the end of the call feel like a small loss. It was on day 17 that he said it. They had been discussing a story he'd read about a veteran who had lost both legs and gone on to climb mountains, and Ryan had said, quietly, not dramatically, just as a statement of fact, I genuinely think what's inside a person is the only thing that matters in the long run. Everything else, the way someone looks, what they can and can't do physically, that changes. People change. Bodies change. But who someone is at their core, that's what you're actually choosing when you choose a person. Sophia had gone very still on her end of the call, because that was the moment she decided to test him. She knew it wasn't entirely fair. She knew, in the rational part of her brain, that words are easy, and that Ryan had no idea what he was actually being asked to stand behind. But she also knew, with the bone-deep knowledge of someone who had been hurt before, that she could not survive falling for this man only to watch him flinch when he saw the crutches for the first time. Her ex had flinched. Marcus, kind, handsome, well-meaning Marcus, had looked at her differently after the accident. He hadn't meant to, she believed that. But she had seen it, that slight recalibration in his eyes, and 6 months later he was gone. He never admitted it was about the injury. But Sophia knew she could not do that again, so she needed to see Ryan's face in the moment he didn't have time to arrange it. The first unguarded second. Before he could compose himself. Before he could choose the right expression. Before kindness or politeness or the performance of being a good person could override the instinct. She needed the truth. So she made a plan. She chose the coffee shop on Clement Street. Warm wood interiors, the smell of espresso, pendant lights casting everything in amber. The kind of place that felt honest. She arrived 12 minutes early, which gave her time to position herself near the door, standing, crutches in hand, so that when Ryan walked in, the very first thing he would see was exactly the truth she had been carefully keeping out of frame for 30 days. She stood near the glass door and waited. Her heart was going faster than she wanted to admit. At 2:03 p.m., she saw him through the glass. He was exactly as he looked on video. Slightly taller than she'd imagined. Gray t-shirt, dark hair. That particular kind of quietly confident walk of a man who isn't trying to impress anyone. He was looking down at his phone, probably checking the address, and she watched him look up, scan the cafe interior through the glass and find her. His eyes landed on her face first. She saw the recognition, the smile starting, and then his gaze dropped, to the crutches, to the bandaged leg, to the ankle brace, and she watched his face do something completely involuntary. He froze, not for long, maybe 2 seconds, maybe 3. But Sophia had spent 18 months learning to read that freeze in people. She knew every variation of it, the polite recovery, the overcorrection into excessive warmth, the subtle step backward that people didn't even know they were taking. She watched Ryan's face carefully, and she could not read it. That had never happened before. He pushed open the door. Sophia. His voice was exactly the same as it was on the phone. She had been half expecting to change somehow, to become careful or over-gentle, but it was just his voice, normal, warm. "Ryan," she said. He walked toward her and she braced herself, for the look, for the too wide smile, for the performance of a man deciding to be gracious about something he hadn't signed up for. Instead, he stopped about 2 feet away and looked at her, directly, honestly, for one long moment. "You planned this," he said. It wasn't a question. Sophia blinked. "What?" "The angle on every video call, always the same angle, you're careful about it." He tilted his head slightly. "You wanted to see my face when I didn't know it was coming." The cafe seemed to get very quiet. "You're not angry?" she said carefully. Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I spent 3 years with someone who told me she was fine when she wasn't. Every single day. Fine, fine, fine." He paused. "So no, I'm not angry that you needed proof before you trusted me. I just wish you hadn't needed to." Sophia didn't know what to do with that. "Sit down," he said, "before I say something embarrassing." They sat at the corner table, near the window. Ryan had been there before. He'd chosen it, she realized, because it was the most accessible table in the room. No steps, no tight corners, plenty of space. She didn't mention it, she just noticed. A waitress brought menus. Ryan ordered coffee. Sophia ordered tea. For a moment they just looked at each other, the strange, slightly vertiginous feeling of meeting in person, someone you already know deeply. "You're different in person," Ryan said. "Good different or bad different?" "Taller," he said. "I wasn't expecting taller." Sophia laughed before she could stop herself. "That's what you lead with?" "I'm nervous," he said completely straightforwardly. "I've been nervous since you texted the address this morning. I've said 14 things to you on the way over here, none of them out loud." "What were you going to say?" He looked at her. "That I was afraid you'd take one look at me in person and decide the voice was better." "The voice is very good," Sophia said. "I'm aware. It's my best quality." She smiled. He smiled back. And something that had been very tight in Sophia's chest for the past 3 hours began slowly to ease, but she hadn't asked him yet. She needed to ask him. She set down her tea and looked at him directly. "Ryan, can I ask you something honest?" "You can ask me anything. When you saw me at the door, you froze." He didn't deny it. "Yes. Why?" He was quiet for a moment, a particular quality of silence that means someone is choosing their words very carefully because the answer actually matters. "Because I was angry at myself," he said finally. "What?" "For 1 second, one single second, I had a thought I didn't choose, a split-second reaction that I'm not proud of." He looked at her steadily. And then the next thought immediately after was, "This is Sophia, the person who made you laugh so hard last Tuesday that your neighbor knocked on the wall. The person who told you about her grandmother's hands and the way they smelled like lavender. The person you've been looking forward to meeting for 30 days. Sophia was very still. "The freeze," Ryan continued, "was me being ashamed of myself, not you, never you." "That's a very good answer," Sophia said. Her voice was not entirely steady. "It's the true answer," Ryan said. "I'm not always going to say the perfect thing, but I will always tell you the true thing, that I can promise." The waitress came back to refill their cups. She was a woman in her 50s, silver-streaked hair, kind eyes, the particular unhurried warmth of someone who had worked in the same café for years and had seen every kind of human moment play out at these tables. She looked at the two of them, then quietly at Sophia, and leaned down slightly as she poured. "Honey," she said softly, "just so you know, I've been watching people fall in love at these tables for 11 years. She straightened up. "That man hasn't looked at anything in this room except you since he walked through the door." She moved away without waiting for a response. Ryan looked at Sophia. Sophia looked at Ryan. "I want you to know," Sophia said, "that I'm aware this was not a completely fair thing to do to you." "No," Ryan agreed. "It wasn't entirely fair. I was scared." "I know. Someone looked at me differently after the accident. Someone I loved, and I couldn't—" She stopped, started again. "I needed to know who you actually were before I let myself—" "Sophia. Before I let myself care more than I already—" "Sophia." She stopped. "I already know," Ryan said quietly. "You don't have to explain. Some people need proof before they can believe in something. That doesn't make you difficult. It makes you someone who's been hurt before." A pause. "I can work with that. Just like that?" "Not just like that," he said honestly. "It's going to take time. And you're probably going to test me again. Maybe without a plan next time, just instinctively. And that's okay. I'm not going anywhere." Sophia looked at him for a long, long moment. Then she said, "You practiced that speech." Ryan exhaled. "I practiced 3 different versions of it in the car." "Which one was this?" "The honest one," he said. "The other 2 were better written but less true." This time when she laughed, it came up from somewhere deep and real. The kind of laughter that doesn't care how it sounds, the kind that means something has finally unclenched inside you after a very long time of holding on. They stayed until the café began filling with a dinner crowd, and the waitress started wiping down the tables around them with patient, unhurried deliberateness that was the universal sign that a restaurant was kindly asking you to move on. At the door, Ryan held it open without making anything of it. Just held it open, naturally. Outside, the evening light was going gold and soft over the street. "Same time next week?" Ryan said. "You want a second date after I ambushed you?" "I want every date after you ambushed me," he said simply. Sophia looked at him standing in the amber light on Clement Street, hands in his pockets, completely unperformed, just a man who had decided to mean what he said and say what he meant. She had spent 30 days testing him. He had passed in 30 seconds, not because he'd had the perfect reaction, not because he'd been flawless, but because when he froze, and he had frozen for one honest human second, he had not run. He had walked through the door anyway. He had sat down anyway. He had been ashamed of his own imperfection and told her the truth about it. That was not the performance of a good person. That was just a good person. "Same time next week," Sophia said. Ryan smiled. The real one. The one she already knew from 30 nights on the phone. The one that crinkled slightly at the corner and meant he was genuinely pleased about something. "I'll find a better table," he said. The table was perfect, she said. She meant the café. She also meant everything else. Later, walking back to her car in the golden evening, crutches on the sidewalk, leg brace clicking softly with each step, Sophia thought about what it meant to test someone and have them pass. Not because they were perfect, because they were honest about not being perfect. She'd spent so long being afraid of the freeze, of that one unguarded second when people revealed who they actually were, that she had forgotten the second was just as real. The recovery, the choosing, the decision to stay. Ryan had frozen, and then he had chosen her anyway. Sometimes love isn't the absence of fear. Sometimes love is the man who freezes for 1 second, feels ashamed of it, walks through the door anyway, and then sits across from you in a coffee shop telling you the true version of his speech instead of the better written one. That, Sophia thought, was the kind of love worth testing for. She had planned the test perfectly. What she hadn't planned was passing it herself.